Hi everybody, and welcome back to my channel. And usually we talk about many things, but I'm going to talk about the second purchase from this house that I've made in recent times, in this year actually. I am very impressed by this house. The house I'm talking about is Bortnikoff, named after the perfumer Dmitry Bortnikoff, who along with his business partner Russian Adam from the house Arij Lador, whose fragrances I have also smelled in my video when I went to Oligarch. You could check that one out. But today we're talking about Bortnikoff, and more specifically we're talking about the Moss Cologne. This is the second fragrance I bought from this house. I did end up smelling a bunch of them, and this really struck me as something beautiful. I did wear it on skin, and it was in the back of my head. I was like, man, that's really nice. That's really nice. And it just ate away at me. And so I picked up a bottle, and I'll show you what it looks like now. All right, so it comes in a box that looks like this. All right, and I'll give you a little bit of an unboxing as well. And it comes out like yay. There is a, oh, okay, is that upside down? No, there is a big B on it. There's a big B on it. Very funny. Yeah, not a B, the letter B is on here. And today's video is brought to you by the letter B and the number. I shall not say the price of this fragrance. And of course, when you open it up, purple inside, which I really like because I like that color. It's a good color. A little card that tells you all the notes on the fragrance, and the fragrance sits in here in this golden throne. And I'll just give you a look at the bottle, like this. And I do like these Bortnikoff bottles. They remind me of the Roja Parfum Pour Homme bottles, which by comparison look like this. Like I just have some hanging around. Okay, except the Rojas have the Swarovski crystals in the cap, and the Bortnikoffs have a big B. And this is an eau de parfum concentration. Let's take a look at this atomizer. It's pretty average atomizer, but Mamma mia. This is really nice. I'm going to, actually, before I spray it on my skin, because I'm going to spray it on my skin and wear it today, because I'm going to do a comparison. But before we do that, I'm going to read the note listing. Why not? Moss Cologne. At the top, we have bergamot, lemon, sweet orange, grapefruit. Very nice. In the heart notes, oakmoss absolute, which is a really funny thing because oakmoss has been banned for a very long time. It's one of these banned substances. But there is a way of extracting the actual scent of oakmoss without it being, I guess, illegitimate or against IFRA regulations. And some houses do it. It is a very expensive process, but what you get is the quality and the depth of that oakmoss that we all maybe used to know and love from our vintages that we had that contained a lot of oak moss in the base. And so this is one way of doing it. We have violet leaf, which I also very much like. Jasmine, champaka, which I'm finding like is a theme amongst the cologne line in Bortnikoff, which is a floral note. Lang lang and nutmeg, which I don't really get too much of, so that's good. In the base notes, we have the oak moss resinoid, so I think that might be the one that I was talking about before. Ambergris, which could be a fantasy note of amber, but if it's ambergris, then we're talking about the whale vomit ambergris. Atlas cedar, Virginian cedar, labdanum, tonka bean, and vanilla. Great. Good to know. And if you look it up online, if you look it up on Fragrantica, you'll find that a lot of people are comparing it to Chanel's Pour Monsieur, which was a fragrance that was released in 1955. Long time ago, and had all of the typical 1955 notes for a gentlemanly, classy fragrance. Things like, lemon, petitgrain, and things like oak moss in the base. It had vetiver in the base as well, but I think it was missing the leather in the base that a lot of other fragrances had later on, and the carnation in the mid, so it doesn't have like a rosy sort of floral heart. People think that Moss Cologne smells like Chanel's Pour Monsieur. And I don't have a full bottle of Chanel's Pour Monsieur, but I do have a vintage dabber. Let's call it that. So I'll show you what it is. This is the one that I'm talking about. This is Chanel's Pour Monsieur. And it is an après rasage, which I think means after shave, but it is an après rasage concentrate, which is really weird because it's a concentrated aftershave. Isn't that just an eau de toilette, or is it in between aftershave and eau de toilette? Maybe it's in between. I had the full thing of this, but I did decant quite a bit of it into a sprayer because these dabbers are really annoying. And what I'm going to do, and I can't find where that is now because I didn't label it. That's funny, isn't it? What I'm going to do is I'm going to apply the Chanel on one arm, on one hand, and then the other one I'm going to put on Moss Cologne. So, is that... Do we do it with the stick? I'm doing it with the stick, and this might take a while. So hang with me. Maybe I'll just speed this up. And it still smells good. I mean, it's a vintage sample. It's like from the 80s, this formulation, because I had the card for it as well. And I think it's actually still good. Actually, you know what? Bugger this. I'm just going to do this. Oh, shit. That's too much. That's too much. Oh, okay, maybe I'll use the stick to spread it around. All right, that's better. All right, cool. Delicious. So I've got the Chanel Après Rasage Concentré drying down here. Actually, it does smell quite similar. And let's try the Moss Cologne here on this hand. Immediately, the distinct separation is in the top. There's that sweet orange that I get from Moss Cologne. God, it's gorgeous. And the lemon is more apparent here. And it's like a thinned out sort of watery kind of lemon. It's not sweet at all, which is something that I would expect from a fragrance that was released in 1955 and had the sensibilities of a gentleman or a monsieur from 1955. But it's still very classy. It's still very elegant. It can still be worn by many gentlemen of today. This, however, is a modernized version. Now, I'm not going to say that they're exactly the same. I think they're actually about quite a distance apart from each other in terms of scent. Maybe in the dry down, when the top notes of this fade, when the top notes of the Bortnikoff fade, is when they'll start to get a little bit more similar, when the oakmoss starts to come to the fore. So let's give it some time, and then we'll come back and we'll check out the mid notes. Okay, we're back now, and we're going to break down the heart notes because I've given these a little bit of time. I've got Chanel's Pour Monsieur on this hand, and I've got Bortnikoff's Moss Cologne on this hand. Now, I've given the top notes some time to sort of fizz away and sort of go into the background and report back on what I'm getting in the mids. Now, so the lemon aspect, the lemony sort of watery lemony aspect of Pour Monsieur has actually faded away, and it's become sort of almost green, right? An aromatic green. Right. Meanwhile, the Moss Cologne is still somewhat a little bit sweeter. It feels like it's a little bit sweeter. It's a bit juicier, and it's floral. It's floral, and I think that's because of the champaca that's in here that I'm picking up, because the other Bortnikoff fragrance that I have, which is Coupe de Foudre, which I'll do a breakdown of as well, also has champaca as a note in that fragrance. So I get similarities between the two. The one thing that isn't on Fragrantica, and the thing that popped into my head when I smelled Pour Monsieur, actually gave it a really sort of deep and conscious effort of smelling, is that it smells very, very similar to another fragrance that I've got. And the other fragrance that I've got is by YSL. It's by Yves Saint Laurent. It's from 1975, and allegedly the first unisex fragrance, the first commercially marketed unisex fragrance, and it's called Eau Libre, and I'll show you what it looks like. This is my bottle of Eau Libre here, and this one, it's got a tiny bit of juice left. It had a lot more, but I've been playing around with it on videos, on live streams, just to show people that the atomizer on this one, because it's one of those old school things where inside this bottle, this thick glass bottle, there are CFCs, chlorofluorocarbons, which are a propellant. As long as you keep your finger down on the atomizer, it'll just continue to spray juice. Now, I don't want to do that again because I've done that before. So I'm just going to put a little bit on my upper forearm here, like that. You saw that, right? Okay, so immediately, this is dry as well. It's dry and sort of lemony, kind of green. It does have aldehydes in the top, but it shares the petitgrain that the Chanel has. Now, once this sort of dies down from the opening, it does get very, very lovely, very nice. Now, I can see Pour Monsieur being maybe more gentlemanly, especially in the base with like oakmoss and vetiver. And this, however, with the bergamot and the petitgrain also sharing those notes and the aldehydes, it's a bit more fizzier. It's a bit more like a Sprite 7-Up kind of feeling of it. Almost like a lemonade, right? But both are great and very dry. But I haven't forgotten about Moss Cologne, which is just running through its heart notes right now and become quite floral. So why don't we just give this some more time and come back and check out what the base actually smells like and how it compares between Chanel's Pour Monsieur and now Yves Saint Laurent's Eau Libre. Okay, and we're back to talk about the base notes of these fragrances, all of them actually. So it started out being a review and a breakdown of Moss Cologne by Bortnikoff, but it's now become a review of 3 fragrances. So one that reminds people of another fragrance and one that reminded me of that other fragrance. How quickly we make these connections. Anyway, starting off with the Moss Cologne, which is the main topic for this video, which is here on this hand. It feels rounded. It feels complete. It feels like a modern man in a modern cut suit can easily pull this off. It also feels quite unisex as well. I think it still has that feminine element. The florals, especially in the heart, give it that sort of vibe. So that's where Moss Cologne is at the moment. It doesn't have the sort of harsh, sort of this tangy feel of the traditional oak mosses. So that resinoid or whatever it is, it may have more resinous qualities with regards to oak moss. Now, going into the Chanel Pour Monsieur, it's turned absolutely beautiful. What can I say? It is fantastic. So I can smell a very, very mild vetiver, right? Without the smoky sort of, elements of actual rooty vetiver, right? Different to something like your Encre Noire kind of dark vetiver. It's that more grassy sort of vetiver, but it's not like fresh cut grass or freshly mowed lawn or something like that. And there seems to be a little bit of sweetness that crept up in here. Now, I didn't mention that in the mids of Pour Monsieur there are things like cardamom and ginger as well. I don't necessarily pick those up, and there might be sort of a dusty sort of thing in the background here, but whatever is in the base notes of this is absolutely brilliant. And now I'm considering I should really get a bottle of Pour Monsieur. I think that it is very nice. I often shrugged it off, saying that it's a pretty boring scent, and it's probably for guys that are older than me. But now I'm that guy because I'm that old now, and I also dress in a shirt and in a suit, and I don't walk around in hoodies, and I don't walk around in tracksuit pants and things like that. And I do work in a professional setting, and therefore I think that this would be fitting for that. It's just class all the way, man. Beautiful. Moving on to Yves Saint Laurent's Eau Libre, which I had here, and that's become something completely different. Like, they had a similarity in the top and in the heart, but this Eau Libre has become almost like this dry grassy vetiver, almost herbal in smell, and it's really dry. Like it's like almost like a vetiver potpourri. If you were to dry the vetiver, grassy elements of vetiver in a potpourri, like in a wooden bowl, that's what it would be like. And the wooden bowl would be made of cedar because I smell cedar in here. Not freshly sawn, but it was cut maybe a week ago, and you could still have the woody smells emanating from that freshly cut cedar from a week ago. That's what that is. Circling back to Moss Cologne, I like it. I like it a lot. As a matter of fact, it's going to be my scent of the day. It's going to be my scent of the day because I'm wearing a shirt with a collar, and I think that it is appropriate for that. I see it being a very, very fashionable statement in an office setting, in a sort of a semi-formal sort of party that you might want to go to. I think it's very, very understated, it's elegant, and it's quite modern, but with an element or a nod to the old school. In terms of it actually smelling like Chanel's Pour Monsieur, nothing alike. Absolutely nothing alike. I have no idea if my nose is broken or if everybody on Fragrantica's nose is broken, or that my sample of Pour Monsieur Après Rasage Concentré is different to the actual eau de toilette or the modern formulation of the eau de parfum. So I might need to go and try those to get a better conclusion. But as for now, as of this video, as of the vintage Pour Monsieur sample that I've got, which is still in great condition and it smells fantastic from top to bottom, they smell nothing alike. It smells nothing like Moss Cologne. Moss Cologne is its own thing. And I find that the DNA that runs through the cologne range of Bortnikoff actually has its own signature. And I think that may be due to the fact that these guys, like I mentioned before, him and his business partner, they actually make their own ingredients. They don't go out for the most part buying it from large chemical companies or aroma chemical companies, which a lot of houses do. That's why you have certain notes, that sort of certain elements in certain fragrances that smell similar. The people that actually make their own juice, maybe they do an enfleurage or whatever they do, it gives them their own unique signature. And that kind of DNA, I think, is running through the cologne line from what I've smelled in the cologne line. So there you go. There you have it. That's my take on Bortnikoff's Moss Cologne. Hope you enjoyed that and got something out of it. And I don't hear too much talk about Bortnikoff, and I think that there should be a lot more talk about Bortnikoff as well, because some of their fragrances are just out of this world. So there you go. And as always, thanks for watching.